Welcome to the Barrels and Business Podcast. I am your host, Jade Green, and this is the podcast for beach-loving, barrel-chasing business owners. In the next hour or so, I plan to give you as many tangible tips on how you can grow and build your kick-ass team, scale your business, and live the epic life of your dreams. So stay tuned while myself and my guests bring you all of the best. Welcome to this episode of Barrels and Business. As always, I am your host, Jade Green, and it is my job to bring you an hour or so of tangible tips on how you can grow and scale your business, but more importantly, how you can live the lifestyle of a beach-loving business owner. Today, I am absolutely stoked to be joined by Shelley and Brett from Skate Connection. And the reason why I'm so excited is many of you guys have heard me talk about one of my beloved team members. We call him Bear. He's known to others as Isaac. And I sat down with him probably 6 or 7 months ago. And we were going through where he really wanted to go with his life and his career. And we were mapping out where he really would like to go and be a part of a team and why. And as we went through the process, he was kind of like talking about different retail and different places and what he loved. I said, dream big, brother. Like we can really go after whoever you want. Like where do you really, really want to work and why? And he said, I really, really want to work at Skate Connection. I said, really? Okay. I think that suits you with your background and your passion. I can see the personality. I can see the brand alignment. We went through a few little steps. And then he messaged me, I think it was a day or two later, and said, guess what? I just applied for a job at Skate Connection. I can't believe that they're hiring. And lo and behold, he's on the team. So you've been near and dear to our team's heart for a while because I bought my nephew's skateboard there. I bought my own skateboard helmet there. I'm about to buy another nephew's skateboard. So I've been loving your brand from afar for a while. So less about me, more about you. Give us the little intro of who you guys are.
Wow. Thank you for having us. I'm Shelley.
Hello, and I'm Brett.
And I guess we started actually as business partners many, many years ago. And we were in a franchise type model where we had retail stores across Sydney and also across Brisbane. And we got to a point where we're like, we have so much like creativity and we want to take our own direction and we want to start our own brand. At the time, I was playing roller derby and doing a little bit of yoga and teaching yoga on the side. So, always keeping your balance. And I was shopping one day for roller skates, and there's really a limited amount of stores that actually had a good range of roller skates and also didn't have that really expert opinions and experience to go along with roller skating. So we're talking 2012. So it was quite a few years ago before this big roller skating trend kind of picked up. And so we're shopping there and we couldn't really find that thing. And because we were searching for that opportunity to have our own, creative outlet, we thought that would be a good opportunity.
Because franchising is kind of constrained, right? You're going to have to live in the little box with all the rules and things.
It is very restricted, yeah.
So
when you're talking, Shelley, all I can imagine is you look so sweet and innocent, like you look so lovely, and then I just have this vision of you like elbowing people as you're going around a derby track, and like, does she get mean, Brett?
She does.
Does she get the game face on and get like totally mean?
No, she is pretty innocent.
I don't know. With derby girls they got some toughness about them.
Yeah, she's very tough.
It's the alter ego, right? So you put the skates on and it's you and the rink and your teammates, and it's so much fun. So if you ever get
What's your derby name? Everyone's got a derby name.
Mine was Shell's Bells, like Hell's Bells, but Shell's Bells.
Love it.
Oh yeah. So, and that was a lot of fun. So I actually only played up until the pandemic hit, and then all the practices stopped. So it wasn't too long ago, but it's if you ever get the opportunity, you have to try it. So anyway,
I own roller derby shorts. I've got padded derby shorts, but that was because I used to play gridiron. And so when we were trying to kit out the girls, we're like, what can we do to protect? Because we're not wearing a full men's kit. So we needed something to protect the coccyx, and, you're getting slammed. So yeah, I've got derby shorts, and I nearly got convinced to derby, but my football coach said I would immediately be dropped if I did. Yeah.
Well, come play. We'd love to have you. Oh, so good. Yeah. And so we we thought that would be a great opportunity. There was a few leagues around, but we needed that like a little bit more. And we kind of looked around and we're like, well, what are some things we can add into that takes us outside of roller skates? And that's where we thought like a full wheels with your scooters and skateboards and longboards and whatever we could think of that would kind of tap in. At the time we were living in the Gold Coast, and often on the weekends we would take the kids to the Esplanade, and there'd be so many families that would sort of be in the surf and having that beach lifestyle, but there's these beautiful big wide paths and like so many families, kids of all ages, tiny little kids, parents chasing after them, trying to keep up. They finally learned how to ride a scooter. They're gone. Parents are running behind them, so the parents need the wheels as well, and so that's kind of where the concept came from.
Yeah. A little bit of brainstorming, adding a few different products, and then developing it from there basically.
Yeah.
Well, the wheels on both my skateboards actually come from Skate Connection. That was okay. That was one of the first that Isaac and Charlotte bought me my new wheels for my skateboards for my birthday a couple of years ago. So my Carver skateboard has an epic set of blue wheels that match the Barrels and Business brand. And then my other cruiser has pink wheels to match the pineapples that are on it. Actually, I'm pretty sure my OB5 came from your Ashmore store.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Everyone just buys me presents from you guys. It's like I'm part of the family.
Yes, you are. Absolutely. So yeah, it was just that lifestyle that kind of sold us to be like, hey, like, why don't we get something that kind of incorporates all of that and is extremely inviting. So we don't, so when you come into our stores, it's really well-rounded of like all types of people. Moms work there, dads work there, teenagers. We've got some really great junior helpers that come in from like age 14 and they go all the way up to, however old. Like we're not the youngest, so and it's really sort of giving that idea that skateboarding and having a longboard and electric skateboards isn't just for the kids, but it's also for the parents as well. And you can have a lot of fun with that and sort of learn to do things as a family or have that connection there.
I was loving what Brett was saying just before we went live about that, in terms of like it making it possible for all of the family to get out and connect together and be active and go outside. And one of my favorite memories of my sister just after she had her first baby is her skateboarding on my skateboard, pushing the pram, because I bought myself the Carver for Christmas. So she was on my OB5 and we were going down, taking all the kids down to the skate park on Christmas Day, but she had a baby in a pram. So she's like on the skateboard and pushing the pram with the skateboard. It's like all of us just over there in Freedom Land in Coolangatta along the pathway. So it really is. I think that families need to have that highlighted to them too, though. Like there's so many moms that go, oh, that's not for me, or I can't do that. And they are like literally like chasing these poor kids, the poor mums chasing the kids up the footpath and trying to keep up when they don't really know that there is other options available to them, like the electrics, or that a longboard's way easier to ride than say obviously a trick board. But looking at those different opportunities, how's what's some of the things that you do to talk to your, because you've got really clear on your avatars and things like that too, right? And your marketing campaigns. How do you send out that message to families to, do this together?
Yeah, with like when the customer's in store, it's just their presentation or talking to the customer. So if I'm selling a 3-wheel scooter for like a 2 or a 3-year-old, I'll always just mention to the parents, like as they get good and they start taking off, you can't keep up with them running. So it's a good idea to either get like a commuter scooter for yourself or a trick scooter or a longboard. And then that way you're on the wheels and you can keep up with the kids. And a lot of parents don't buy straight away, but you'll see them back a month or a couple of months later once the young kid's getting good, because they do need that form of transport to try and keep up with them, because the kids are taking off towards roads and all sorts. So you need some mode of transport to catch up.
Yeah, I love it. What I love about this story for business owners or other retailers is really thinking through understanding your customer and how you can increase the lifetime value of your customer. So they come in just to buy, say, the kids scooter, but not only are you adding via your values of wanting to have the family connection and getting people active and outside, but the opportunity to really turn that one purchase into a whole firm. Like that could be, okay, well, we got little Jimmy's for his birthday, and then, Millie will need hers for her birthday then, and then we've got Christmas, and then Dad needs something new. Like you can really build out the product range for that. How do you go about thinking through customer lifetime value and those sorts of things?
Well, some of them would be looking at your market trends, and sometimes it has to do with like the unique things that we can find within the market and the industry. So a really interesting one was when we first started, it was actually really hard for us to get suppliers on board. So we actually originally started with a shop, and we had to fill the shop with something. And we came across this really interesting contraption, and it was called an easy roller. And it was kind of this go-kart thing that you sit on really close to the ground, and you take your feet and you swiveled your feet back and forth and you created momentum that way. And
I've seen these crazy things.
Yes. And when we first opened, like they were our bread and butter, because we didn't have like the full range that we do now. And so we used that as kind of our marketing tool to communicate that, like with, like having small kids and that family kind of lifestyle, to come in, to invite them into the store. And because we only had the one location, another way that we tapped into finding like where the people are, the families and all that sort of thing, was doing kiosks in the shopping centers, and also doing like different types of events and markets. So in our first year, you could actually find us in the Carrara markets or the surfers markets, and having that kind of thing. So we sort of had like that as an idea for a product range, and then it kind of filled up from there. So for a period of time, that was a very popular thing. And we also had scooters. We could also see that watching the things in the community, there was a lot more interest going into the electric skateboards. And eventually now, so fast forwarding a few years, we can see this huge uptake with roller skates, and you start to see a lot of like the retro roller skates and that.
I want a pair, desperately want a pair. Yeah. I love my skateboards, and my conundrum is I'm trying not to be too consumeristic, because I'm trying to be minimalist. Don't buy all the things just because I can buy all the things. And so I've been fighting this urge to buy roller skates, because I'm like, well, when will I use my roller skates over using my Carver or my OB5? Like, when's the opportunity that I'll do it? What's going to motivate me to do it? When will I use them over riding my bike? Because sometimes I ride my bike and then with my skateboard on board in my surfboard rack, and then skateboard. I was like, so I'm still trying to justify the roller skates, besides the fact that they look super cool and I really want them. Is that just a reason enough?
Yes.
It certainly is a good reason.
Okay, I'll ask for them for Santa. Can I have them for Christmas? I'm going to segue then, Shelley. But again, before we started recording, you said in preparation for this podcast, you asked your friends what would they like to hear, and what would make a good value episode for them. And you said a lot of them were, they might have a hobby business or a side hustle, or they're trying to like quit their full-time job and make it their main thing, and they wanted to know about your startup journey. And you said, "Oh, that's easy." So can we touch, talk? Give me one of your friends' names. Who are we talking to?
Sure. So I have some really good friends. So one's actually in Canada. Her name is Belle, and she's forever making clothes and these unique little things. Jewelry, clothes, little handbags, scarves. Sells it herself, like just through little markets online, or she has little kiosks as well that she has like around Winnipeg. So that's where I'm originally from, Winnipeg, small little town. And she always asks so specifically I asked her hey, this podcast would probably be perfect for you to listen to. It's all the way over here in Australia, so you have to listen to it over there. And what kinds of things do you want to hear about? And she's like, how do you start? And all I could think of is really to find that niche market and communicate to them. So I think that's really important. So it's like, how can you find that niche market? And that's what we did. So you don't want to go really small to where you're kind of pigeonholing yourself, where it's only going to be a select area, and it has to do with your location as well. So ours is very location based. So those are the types of things that you need to think of. And what can you add value to what you're doing to where it might tap into like a broader community. So you target into that community, and then you can go a little bit broader with that as well. Mm-hmm. So you might think of, who are you marketing to, and what is their ideal, what does that customer look like? Is it a specific age group? Is it, what gender would they identify with? Where do they live? What are their hobbies? What are their interests? What are their beliefs, and what are their values? And really understanding how that community works, how they live, and sort of find a way to communicate and to tap in and connect with them on that level. And then you sort of start to find, where there's a lack of services or how you can improve. So you don't need to fully reinvent the wheel. You're just improving onto that smaller area. And then you can improve, or do they have a problem that you can specifically solve? So you're trying to solve that problem as well. And once you have that, then I think you're then starting to create momentum from there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Brett, have you got anything to add on that?
Yeah, with the niche, like Shelley was saying, it's just picking your market and progressing with that. You can't go too big, because you don't want to be generic where you sort of blend in with other companies or trying to compete against the big guys. It's you target specific products and then push forward with them, and you need to adjust. So as business goes along, if you're finding that something's not successful or not working, you might have to just adjust your alignment to move forward in if you need to.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose one thing that I would add to that is, once you kind of find that niche, and there are similar, if you're doing clothing, for example, there's so much clothing brands out there, or there's so many dress stores, and what makes you different? How can you differentiate yourself to your competition? What can be the added service, and what are those tiny little things that will make you different, that makes people want to come to you than to go to other people?
Yeah, beautiful. What's some of the things that you've done when thinking through that process?
A few, actually.
Yeah, where the start point, it's the product mix. We decided to go with a product mix to suit all families, rather than target like pros. So like a normal skateboard shop would just target pro skateboarders or higher level skateboarders where they have decks, trucks, wheels, and you basically have to go in and assemble everything yourself, and it ends up costing a lot more. Or the same thing with your pro scooter riders. If you target pros, it's all the individual parts, and it ends up being a very high cost. So we went through and targeted the families, and we've still got the pro stuff, so people can come in and get all their top end stuff, but we've got all the entry level stuff where
that's for the teenage boy that thinks he's gonna, now that he's seen it in the Olympics, gonna go skateboarding. So it's a succession plan. You can get them with their Razor scooter when they're a mini human, and then just grow with them until they're ready to go pro.
That's exactly
it's a great lifetime value of the customer.
Yeah, and they start off young, like you said, about that 1.5 to 2 years old when they can start riding stuff. And like one of our older customers, we had a grandma at the age in her mid-80s who brought a commuter or a dirt scooter so that she could keep up with the grandkids. So it is catering like for everyone. Yeah.
And I guess also what does make us like that little bit different is we have those fun, quirky items that you normally wouldn't see in a skate shop as well. So kind of like that go-kart, easy roller thing in the beginning. We have these really fun socks, like crazy socks, and people come in to us for like crazy sock day, or they can have them for like roller derby. And it's like these fun, and we'll put them in, and it just looks a little odd. Like you kind of walk by and you're like, giant fluorescent pink wall in a skate shop. This is very strange. And it does make people stop where they go, oh, like what is that? I'm really interested in that thing. And it makes them comfortable. It kind of adds like that shock value, I guess, that you're trying to be like, oh, like that's really different. Come in and actually
interrupt.
It interrupts that thought pattern where it is that thing that's a little bit different. And that's again, like I guess tapering from back in the day when we were doing markets as well. It wasn't like the usual thing that you would see at a market.
You need that little point to create impact.
Yeah. Talk to me, like, or talk to the listeners about why, like, if they're looking to, break free of the 9 to 5 or whatever, they're deciding that they want to do their own business. What's the benefits and pitfalls of going with franchise versus your own brand? Obviously, creativity is one, but just walk through, like, if someone's sitting there going, maybe I could just buy a franchise, that'll be easier, or what do you see as the pros and cons on those fronts?
The franchise system is definitely a lot easier because the franchisor organizes a lot of the process, or basically all the processes, advertising, the way you do things. So it's definitely a much easier business to start. Whereas, when you're going into your own, you're all of a sudden the marketing person, the purchasing person, the salesperson. You're a master of all trades, and you have to learn a lot of things pretty quickly, basically.
With the franchise, you definitely have more restrictions of what your product range is. So you don't have that creativity to be like, to pivot quickly and be like, actually, this is starting to be up and coming. Let's get that in, because that'll tie in with us like really extremely well. So I think that's the stuff that we find, and probably more on Brett's side, that he finds pretty exciting to find those new things that come in. And I guess from my point of view, I tend to go a little bit more into the marketing side, which is something that's what you pay for in a franchise. So if you are going to go with a franchise, just make sure that they have a really good marketing program. They're marketing your brand extremely well. And that's a lot of like where your franchise fees go to. And I guess when you're having to do it yourself, you have to learn that creative way of learning to speak to the customer and like trial and error different things as well. And then you're not restricted to where you can put your brand in the market, which is interesting. So if you wanted to be on eBay, if you wanted to be on Click Frenzy, if for those different online opportunities, if you wanted to do market stalls, those decisions are up to you as an owner as well.
Yeah. How do you think you would have gone if you went straight into having your own brand without doing franchising beforehand?
Wow. Okay. So like Brett was saying, it is trying to learn to be jack of all trades. So I guess we were lucky in the beginning where we just focused a little bit more on the bricks and mortar. And then as time went on with the change of technology, online is so important. And neither Brett or I have like a huge web development background. So that was something that we had to learn. But I think the biggest part is if you are going to make the jump of not having that experience, you just have to be okay with not starting perfect. And just even if you can get 80 to 90% done, you can still work on those, like, what needs to be done. You can just go through and start and then fine tune and learn into those areas that you need to grow into. So if you need to take I've taken a lot of courses.
I've done some, but yeah, not as many.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it does come to the jump though, like definitely that going through the franchise system first gave you the background and you learned a lot of processes. So it did make it a lot easier to start our own brand because you're already familiar with a lot of the processes. Or I think if you were just trying to start fresh without any sort of experience, it would definitely be a lot more difficult. Like the franchising system taught us that you can be in major shopping centers, even though the rent looks absolutely insane and you go, there's no way we can afford that rent. Being in the franchise, we're in a main shopping center, you learn that as long as you've got the correct product, good staff members for sales, and attracting enough of the market, you can make a shop quite successful in a shopping center, even though the rents are extremely high.
Yeah, beautiful. It's kind of like doing an apprenticeship in retail, right? Jumping through the franchise model, like getting to learn that back end. Did you take many things? Like when I think franchise, I think of the book called E-Myth. Have either of you heard of E-Myth?
No.
So E-Myth was written many moons ago. It was actually the first business book that I read. Yeah, I think I read it first and then the 1 Minute Manager. And it was a long time ago. They've got to revisit now the E-Myth Remastered, but it's all about the understanding of the concept of McDonaldizing any business that you start. And so franchising, right? Being able to give a handbook to anyone and like be able to pick up any store member, any staff member from any location, drop them into one of your other places, and they can do everything the exact same way that they do it. So you've got the quality control and that you're being able to automate in terms of and replicate. So you don't have to be teaching the same thing over or expecting that, you've got one manager teaching one thing one way because that with their personality type, which is completely different. You can't understand why the stores can't replicate the sales process or the customer happiness. And it's because you haven't applied the franchising sort of model. Did you take, is there anything that you, with saying that, is there anything that you feel like you learned from franchising that you've now applied to having, because how many stores you got now? Is it 5?
We've opened 2 just in the last few months, like during that sort of last COVID period. So we've opened one at Chermside and one at Tuggerah down on the Central Coast to give us 7 at the moment.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
So is there any of the things that that you take from like a franchising model that you apply now that you're a multi-site, well, not that you now are, but that you've got so many multi-sites?
Oh, you definitely like the policies and procedures. Like every franchise, like you said, does have policies and procedures. And because you're used to them and seeing them through the franchise system, we obviously had to develop our own, but you've got an idea of what you need to put in it, basically, because you've seen those processes previously. And that's definitely the advantage of from where we started with the franchise system. It gave us that sort of a head start or a bit of a jump into this business, basically.
Yeah. This is something that I say to all businesses when they're starting, do it when you're only one site. Do it as if you're going to have your multi-location, multi-office, or distributed workforce. And if you do it when you're first starting, it's so much easier to do it that first time round, because even like what you said a minute ago, Shelley, done is better than perfect. Because even if you know you're not going to have the Bible version that you want to keep forever, at least if you've got 80% done as you're going through the process, it's just going to save so much time and headache in the back end, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
it is. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think if we waited for everything to be perfect, we never would have started. That's the thing. And we signed up. Well, this is your story, but signing up.
Yeah, what Shelley was saying partially before, we basically signed a lease for our first shop, which was in Ashmore, prior to us actually having any suppliers on board. So that obviously creates a bit of pressure. And I think most people do actually work better when there is pressure, because you have to perform basically. So all of a sudden we were going into a shop with a lease where we knew we had to get things sorted very quickly, because we're due to open like in a month's time and hadn't started a supply process yet. So yeah, there's you throw yourself in the deep end and you basically make it work.
What's the lesson and the blessing in that? So from what I can hear, there is maybe, and tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but coming from a franchise background, you may have been used to having suppliers, not really knowing that they may say no to you, or you may not get everyone you want. You've got to they get to be picky and choose who they sell to. Like, this is crazy. Why doesn't everyone want to sell to everybody, right? And talk through, was that one of the things of just wasn't sure, or just took the leap, and how did that?
We took the leap and presumed that everything would be good, because in our past experience with the franchise system, you'd have competitors everywhere. You'd have 6 or 7 competitors in the shopping centre, and then you're going into the skate industry, we found, and the scooter industry, that they sort of block areas, and you haven't got as they give each store a bit of separation, because they don't want too many shops too close to each other, basically. So yeah, there were a few suppliers that literally took us 6 months to a year or so to actually get on board. And like, it is quite funny, like looking back now at what our shops look like currently, or even a year ago, versus when we first opened. It's just changed dramatically. And yeah, like, it's just that development of the business over time. Obviously, you're always improving. So our product range at the moment is amazing and it's huge. Whereas you look back 8 years ago, and it's quite funny in terms of the lack of range.
Was there some on there that you really wanted and couldn't get?
Yeah, one of the major skate suppliers that supplies one of your top end wheels and a lot of the top end trucks and bearings and other things, we didn't get on board for about the first 7 months. But our background, we knew that we could develop what we had. So we actually opened a second shop 3 months or so after our first, and then went into a shopping centre within 6 months. So we basically had 3 shops open within a 6-month period, which obviously then suppliers see that you are serious. So then we obviously got all the suppliers that we needed, basically, because they knew that you're serious and that you're there to actually promote their product, basically.
Wow, that's some pretty serious growth right there, and probably takes a big set of balls to go out and do that too, right?
And a bit of stress.
Just a bit of stress, yeah. Is there any lessons or anything that you can share with the audience that you're willing to share about how the hell did you do that? Because that seems like it's a lot of capital, it's a lot of at risk to go, especially to going into shopping centers and things like that. What did you need to do to be able to do that?
It is a lot of risk, and we just had the confidence that would make it work. And you basically do what you need to make it work. And like, we did open a lot of shops quickly, and that probably was actually, it made business difficult, because obviously you're spreading yourself too thin, and you got a lot more running around to do. So that was a learning curve. But I think if you really want to make the business succeed, as long as you put good effort in, it will succeed.
Yeah. And so was it in the business plan to open that many stores that quickly, or did you go, we know how to win these suppliers. We're going to go and do this instead. What was the actual, when you sat down and went, hey, let's do this, what was the plan?
Well, we got the first shop at Ashmore, and then we found another location at Helensvale. That shop no longer exists, so it was just part of the progress. And then in the process of actually signing the leasing, getting the Helensvale ready, then we had the shopping centre actually approach us. So they liked what they saw in our shop at Ashmore, and we'd done a few pop-ups. Like we did a pop-up at the Robina Town Centre. We opened our first shop in October and then went straight into doing a pop-up at Robina Town Centre. So a lot of the other shopping centres see you in those sorts of spots too. Mm-hmm. So we got approached very quickly to go into a shopping centre, in which we got a pretty good deal there too. So we went into that one at Garden City. And that was, we had the 3 shops open. I think Garden City opened about 8 months or so after we actually opened the first shop. So it was all, pretty quick progression for those first few shops. The shop was for Garden City was signed within 6 months, but we opened it, I think 8 months after we opened the first.
Wow.
So I think with, having that like big growth, like we're saying, it's probably not necessary. I think at the time, because rewinding 8 years ago, it was still this balance between having that bricks and mortar store, and because we had that, we were in a franchise where there was like multiple stores across Australia. We're just used to that idea of being like, you have like 60 stores and that's just how you do.
That's just what you do. Yeah.
That's just what you do. And I think that's kind of like it actually is an old mentality, like going bigger is better and having these things, because there really has been a shift to having like really successful, good, solid, like smaller, more manageable, have your storefront online. So you would actually now get an actual bricks and mortar store and then an online store. And that's a good size, and that's a good space to be in as well. Mm-hmm. So I think it was just a little bit of that kind of mentality then. And we did get, like, honestly, we did get to a point where it was too many stores, because we got up to many, and we had to pivot and sort of relook at what we were doing, because then it did spread us too thin, and we didn't have those, because we're very like hands-on in our business as well, where we like to be there. We actually like to personally know everyone extremely well and have like really good lines of communication, and where we can. And so I guess for us, we did actually pivot and change that modeling a lot as time went on. And a big part of that is the change in technology and what you're able to do without having this physical presence in like 100 different shopping centers, So that's where we had to learn to like pivot and change quickly, I think.
Yeah.
Did the pivot come before COVID?
It did, yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So can you talk to me, like, pre-COVID, what would have been your revenue split, like retail versus online? Did online ever start to outperform having like the collective bricks and mortar, or how does that look pre-COVID?
Yeah, online, like our website was one of our weakest performing shops if you made it as a shop as such. And like we did actually get up to 10 shops at one stage. And the online shop would have been performing along with our weakest shop. Whereas like during that COVID, we placed a lot more emphasis on the website, and like leading into COVID, we'd actually closed a number of shop doors down that weren't successful and creating headaches. So we were downsizing, which we got it down to 5 shops. And we focused on all our successful shops so that you could put more energy into the successes, basically. So we shut down.
I just love that idea. So many people hang on to things out of ego as well, or just like stubbornness, like keep flogging the dead horse, and focus their energies on their weaknesses, and like divert their energy to try and get an underperforming store, location, product range performing and I love even for playing to human strengths, like focus on the strengths rather than the weaknesses, turn up the dial on what does work and kind of not cut your losses, but look at where you can really double down on what is good, because that will create the flow and it will actually have the knock-on effect. But more importantly, it makes work more fun, right? Like
it does.
yeah. Like, so yeah, sorry, talk to us a little bit more about making that decision and the lessons through that.
Yeah, so we basically pivoted, we changed, we'd focused down to the shops that were further apart, because we had too many shops at one stage too close together as well. Yep. So you're sort of oversaturating the market. So yeah, we basically focused on our best performing shops. As leases ran out, we let shops close. And then I think our last one we got out of was at Harbour Town in February, and then COVID hit basically into that month. So it was sort of rolled into almost perfect timing. Yeah. And then we put the focus on the website. And then since, the website has grown at a crazy amount, and it's now one of our best performing shops.
Yeah. So go, Shelley.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, like, I think COVID for everyone was a real interesting time, I think we were a little bit lucky. We were at the time for Queensland, like everything was closed, but like we did have that impact, but it wasn't months and months and months on end of, having closed doors. But I think it also gave us a lot of, where everything is like shut down and everything is at a halt. It really gives you a lot of space and time to really reassess everything as well. And I think that has actually been a lot of feedback that I've heard from people, or a lot of, like where they weren't personally affected by COVID. They're like, we had to like stop, we had to reassess what we're doing with work, because people weren't able to go to work. They weren't able to run their businesses like they usually would. And I think it actually created a lot of life balance as well. So like that work and life balance, which, and I think that worked for us as well. And that's where the idea of like, we can have like things going a little bit more efficient, like for the online. And we worked in with people, the ones who were able to work with us. We just taught them how to like load products online, help us with like, hey, what do you guys want to do? Like, I know you're at home and this is a really strange time. If you want to come with us and do some work, like that would be great. And people were making like YouTube videos and just like these interesting content. So they're actually having a lot of fun at work too, which was great.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of did help them, like I guess in their headspace as well, where you're like, oh, this is really, so it did help like some people just to keep connected, keep involved, doing these really fun things, like where there was the interactions with customer either online, and one of our stores was able to stay open at the time because it was deemed as essential outdoor activity and sport. The ones that came in were like, hey, like I have extra time now to learn and pick up these different skills. So, and they would come in and have a chat. So that was interesting. But yeah, COVID, very interesting time. And I think a lot of people really reassessed what their work and life balance was, because everything just came to like that big halt. And where it affected people individually, I think businesses have now sort of had that bit of a change. I think that change will have that ripple on effect for a few years. So it's interesting.
And it created the trend for rollerskating as well.
Yes.
Everyone was in lockdown, and it's an individual sport. So I think a lot of the parents were like, well, I used to do that 20 or 30 years ago. So they have got skates, and then their kids have got skates, and then they've become the trendy thing. So all the teenage girls have got skates, and then all of a sudden you've got that big resurgence in roller skating. So I think that was definitely a product of the COVID lockdowns, basically.
And
yeah,
Jade,
we've got a girl that works on one of the teams that I run, and she used to roller derby before having kids. And we were talking about, what's the stuff that makes you the most you, like, and what can you do to reconnect to yourself, and like going through this coaching stuff. And she's like, roller skates. And so that weekend she went and got her roller skates out again, and she took her little ones with her, and she was just like, oh my God, I feel like me again. Like I'm back on the skates.
And Jade, I was interested how did you go through COVID, like with your business and your ideas and things like that?
Yeah. So it's my whole business had to change completely because I was a global speaker, and I used to spend, I was out of the country more than I was in the country for the 4 years prior. So I was paid to go to Bali. I used to run a business accelerator in Bali, right near the World Surf League spot at Karamis. The weekend that they started shutting everything, I didn't have a home. I was staying in my friend's Airbnb, and it was Friday, and my sister's calling going, do you know they're talking about shutting Bali's airport? And I'm like, well, that's not very convenient because I'm flying to KL on Sunday, and I'm going to be in KL teaching Mindvalley's team stuff. And then I've got to go from KL to Bali for 4 weeks. And she's like, yeah, I think they're going to shut Bali's airport. Like, what if you get stuck in KL? And I'm like, oh, that's not an okay thought. And then she's like, but also Australia's saying that when you come back, you're going to have to quarantine, but you don't have a home to quarantine in. And like, you won't be able to come to my house because I got little kids, and Dad's old, and Cassie, who's my friend whose house I was staying in, she's got kids and she's got older parents. And it's like, she's like, where are you going to go? Your van's not built yet. Like, I bought my van, but it hadn't been fit out. So I was building a camper van, and I'm like, this is going to be a problem. And so all of my work, I was booked. This was in the end of February. I was booked all the way through till the end of September to be traveling. So I was going to Bali. I was coming back for a couple of weeks, doing live events here in Australia. Then I was being sent to Costa Rica to run a business accelerator there. So I was going to cheeky swing by Cuba for a week holiday beforehand. And then I was going straight from Costa Rica to Europe to speak with Mindvalley and do seminars there. Then I was coming back through Bali, running another business accelerator, doing some Mindvalley events in other states in Australia. And then I was going to be a grown up and get a home. So I didn't have a website. I didn't have a coaching program. I didn't have any of these things because I was always on different time zones. I used to sell coaching programs in lots of how long will I be on this time zone. So you could have 7 weeks because I'm going to be on that time zone, and you can have 5 weeks because I'm going to be on that time zone. And I'd custom make everything, or I'd do like 3-day deep dive workshops, and like we'd put up maybe a landing page, or I'd partner with someone to sell it. So everything had to change. And I deliberately didn't adult and have any commitments because I wanted to be able to just, someone wants to fly me to Costa Rica, I'm like, sure. So then I was like, oh, fuck. I don't have a mail list. I don't have a landing page. I wrote my program 4 years before of what I was going to do. So I had a 52-week program ready that I could unbox, but nothing to do with it. And I'd squirreled off teaching, like doing Mindvalley. So doing mindset and meditation and life coachy sort of stuff. I've been teaching somebody else's business accelerator. I taught on LinkedIn, like how to grow your LinkedIn profiles and personal brands. And every now and then I did my team stuff, but the market didn't know what the hell I did. Because sometimes I'm a brand ambassador for the resorts that I'm working at. Sometimes I'm a LinkedIn girl. Then I'm the Mindvalley girl. It's like the brand was a disaster. I teach personal branding. My brand was a disaster. I was like the everything girl. So I was like, this is going to be a problem. And I started going, okay, I don't want to get caught in KL, and I don't want to get stuck in Bali. Like, what am I going to do? So I start ringing other coaches, and I'm like, I knew there was another guy in Bali. I'm like, can you take my 2 weeks at the business accelerator? That's the biggest deal, right? And they're supposed to be having people fly in. He's like, yeah, I can make that work for you. I'm like, sweet. Okay. Who can replace me at Bali Spirit Fest? Because I need someone to speak for me there because that's part of the process of going to Freedom X Fest, which is the next one. So now I'm like, how do I get someone to do my 5 days of Freedom X Fest that can also speak at Bali Spirit Fest? And I'm freaking out. And then I get the calls going, okay, Bali Spirit Fest has cancelled. They've decided to can it. And then everyone else just went, we cancelled too. Like, okay, cool. Now I need a home. And I managed to manifest the most amazing home right on the beach. So that was really cool. But then I had to go in and go, what do I want to do? And I knew where I wanted to go, but I had this massive guilt that I didn't have it as bad as most of my friends in the world right then. Like I had friends that were stuck in India and like in all different random locations all over the world. They actually couldn't get out, and people like just losing all of their money or not having a safe place, and obviously not living somewhere like this. And I had all guilt around, it's almost like survivor's guilt, right? The same that you hear about that. And so I just get into service. So I just started doing coaching calls every day for free. So I just said 9:00 every day, Monday to Friday, I'll show up and just help any business that's in the shit and needs help, even if it's just a mindset. And then that turned into doing some programs and helping certain clients and then getting the wheels in motion. And that kind of just perpetuated from there, which allowed me to build it. So for me, I think it was such a blessing because it kind of made me fast forward my timeline. I'd probably just be gallivanting still around the world, not really adulting, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But I've managed to make deeper connections with my family. I've got some clients that I've been working with now since the very beginning of COVID, and like they're like my best friends. And I really got to test out the different areas of my skills and then get reconnected to what I really love, because I've said for probably the last 14 years that I want to be the world's largest enabler of humans that are happy at work. Yeah. And I kind of got off track with it. And then I think I kind of got imposter syndrome, like, who the fuck are you to be the world's largest? And yeah, it kind of got disconnected. But through this process, it's really allowed me to reconnect and to double down and to start building the connections and really sort out what is important to me and how I can make a difference. So I feel pretty, and I get to live here. So even though I'm not allowed over there and those shops over there won't let me in, I still feel pretty blessed. That's my long answer.
But it makes you reassess and like improve and just self-reflect, and and that seems to be what everyone has had the chance to be able to do, which is nice.
Yeah. I think that is it's you got to try and make a positive out of the negative. So everything's shut down, but then it is just you got to run with it and adjust and then move forward. It's the only way that you can basically run a successful business, is that you need to be able to adjust and move forward when things happen. And you can't always predict what's going to happen. So it's always trying to project and trying to move forward, basically.
Yeah, I think that the majority of people that I've dealt with, they had struggles. Like some people lost millions and millions of dollars, but the people that are always going to be successful have put the lens of what can I learn from this, or what was the blessing, or I got to spend more time with my kids. Like one of my clients is like, I was like, how are you doing with homeschooling? He's like, I'm going to be sad when they go back to school. And he jinxed himself because now he's got a kid that was close contact, so he's got him in quarantine again. I'm like, you wanted more homeschool, buddy. But it's really about the lens that you put over it, right? Where can you find, like, and if you look deep enough, you will find a blessing in something, but more you can learn a lesson, right? So I would say the majority of businesses I deal with, a lot of them had a shit online presence. They didn't, or they kind of like were getting lucky with their online and not by design, kind of just by accident. Actually, another client I work with, it's multi-site in Brisbane. They had an online store and, it did its kind of thing. Now it's doubled and it's just going crazy because they were forced to actually go, what doesn't work with our website? What's the customer experience actually like? Oh, wait, we can make this so profitable. And now it will become their highest performing store. Similar story to you, right? Rather than it was its lowest performing store. Now it's going to be the highest performing store.
Yeah.
And the margins, obviously, so not only in gross sales, but in margins, because you're not paying monster retail prices either, right?
Yeah.
What do you think, if you had to give 3 lessons that you learned from COVID, they don't have to just be business related, what would you gift other listeners with your lessons and your blessings?
I think one of them is definitely that work-life balance. Like, we probably did put too many hours into work, and like COVID did force you to stop. And like, in some ways it was great, because you go, we're not getting 30 or 40 phone calls a day from all the different shops asking questions. You're actually getting nice quiet time with the family, and you can actually spend some good quality time with the kids, basically. So that way.
How old are your mini humans? You've got 3 of them, right?
Yeah, we've got a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 17-year-old.
Wow. Yeah. Nice handful. Yeah.
Yes.
So with that, what did you do family-wise? I'm always interested. What did you do family-wise to connect? Like, because, if you've been busy being like working on the business and the kids are kind of been doing their own thing, it's an interesting situation to get them to reconnect and get them off the iPads or devices. And
we usually have like an au pair or a nanny through like the Christmas period, because for retail trade, Christmas is always your big trade. So we had been used to always having an au pair, and then all of a sudden COVID struck. So au pairs can't get into the country.
Gone.
Yeah. So but basically, so it was spending more time with the kids in terms of just activities. So it wasn't so much iPads. It was getting out, doing a bit of physical activity. We've got a half pipe in the backyard, so playing on the half pipe, going for going for scooter or skate rides along the waterfront, stuff like that. So getting out, doing a bit of physical activity, out into the ocean for swimming, and then just activities like puzzles. The kids did a few jigsaw puzzles over that time. Our little 6-year-olds memorized his like little 100 or 300 piece ones, where he'd start putting them together really, really quickly, because he got too much practice at them, obviously.
Oh, that's awesome.
We attempted the homeschooling, but when you do each kid, they want you to sit down. Wow, that is tough. And then having to do your own business. That is an eye opener. I love the teachers. I love them being at school. No, but when you have to be parent, teacher, business owner, you're wearing a lot of different hats. And you really have to, because it's really hard to be like, oh, I got to take this call and I'm trying to do the homework. Like, it's really unfair to split your time like that. And I think if you are, I've tried to make a rule that when I have the kids in front of me, the kids are at front of me, and the phone kind of goes on to the side. If they're doing, if they want my attention, you're reading a book, because you really don't get those moments back, like where it's like, I just want you to read a book. And I'm like, they're not going to be 19 years old being like, I want you to read this
Mom,
book.
read me a book.
So I don't mind. I'm like, I'll be that person. I'll be like, yeah, like, let's read this, whatever it is. And so, when you have to kind of wear all those hats all at the same time, it's really impossible. So it's good to like try to segment your time and put in a schedule so that you do have that one-on-one time that goes with the kids, and that time where you can spend onto the business. And kind of, it's really hard when you're like answering the phone and trying to play in a pool, like it's like that's and we do it, but it's just that I like to have that individual time. And I think when it came to homeschooling, like they're trying to have fun and play, and you're trying to teach them something, and like so I think that dynamic was really hard. So we had to be like, okay, right, like here's the period of time. And honestly, we didn't finish all of the homeschooling, but I think that you tried your best. We did most of it. You'll pick it up again later, and like let's also have family time and fun as well. And then I have to go to the side and do work. So it was just like, wow, that was a challenge. So I guess personally, that's what I kind of came out with that. Any other things that you learned from that, or no?
Another one was just to focus on what you're good at. Like COVID struck, and you need to go to do different points. Focus at your strengths and make your strengths work, basically. you obviously have weaknesses, and it's good to improve on areas, but like you really focus on your strengths.
Yeah, beautiful. That one's that one's near and dear to my heart. But just with the flow coaching that I do, and specifically working with teams and hiring for strengths and working on strengths rather than try to coach on weaknesses. Like, as you, I don't know if you've, I'm dyslexic, so like trying to get me to spell better and just beating that into me is just going to frustrate the shit out of everyone, and just better off to find another way. Like, that's just find new solutions and really look at the genius zones, because when you can focus on those genius zones and turn that dial up, that's when things go through the roof. Like for you guys, I think like looking at that, you know, who is our market, and doubling down on the family side of things rather than like being tempted to go off onto pro, and focusing on that is what really, you know, helps you to stay in your lane and to build that reputation as well.
Yeah, and I think for us too, like we got different personalities, different strengths, so we work actually really well together as business partners, because you've got different focuses, and you've got all the time that you can run things past each other. But because we're not the same, we definitely have very different strengths, and you work on those together basically.
Yeah. So in terms of the dynamic with you two, what sort of personality traits have we got? Who does what? How do you figure out who's going to do what within the business and make decisions?
Anything number wise,
and not kill each other.
Yeah, anything number wise, Shelley's like, it's yours. Like, go away. I'm not interested in numbers.
I don't want to know bank accounts. I don't want to know the numbers. I don't know. I just love the creativity, you know? Yeah. So
yeah, numbers. So like I focus sort of more so on the purchasing, like stock purchases, and more so the physical involvement in the shop, whereas Shelley's puts more focus on like all the marketing and the procedures, the human resources, and like all that sort of other background stuff basically.
Yeah. So more of the I guess like more of like the strategies of what we can do, and like a little bit making sure that we're keeping on to like direction, because it's easy to go all over. Yes.
Yeah. What tips do you have for other partners in business? So I know you guys started in business and then became partners, but how do you keep the marriage in harmony even when you're in business? Do you have certain rules about when you're like no business talk in the bed, or
I think because we're focused on different things, it actually makes it easier. I think if we were both trying to do exactly the same thing, you definitely would have a lot more disagreements and probably clashes. So we're focused on separate things, which definitely makes it easier.
But in saying that, your separate things need to be divided at the home as well. So it means one person has to do the cooking, the other person has to do the dishes, and you keep it 50-50. If you're 50-50 as business partners, then you're 50-50 in the house, with like helping with the kids and doing household chores. Because, you know, why not? You know, like that, if you're going to be like partners in business, it's also important to have that same balance at home as well.
Yeah, so she does throw me all the dishes and the laundry and things like that. But yeah, we do run things.
I was gonna say, I'm the dishes person. I am not the cooking person. I can clean. Like I can OCD the hell out of a kitchen.
And I think the other one is like you can't hold grudges, or you can't hold an argument, because you just have to be able to drop it and move on, or, you know, like that kind of thing. So if there is like a little bit of a disagreement, it's just agreed that you don't bring that into the other world.
Yeah, you don't take it back into your personal life. You move on, you get over it. Otherwise, you're just going to be angry at each other all the time.
yeah, that's not good for anybody, right? Awesome.
And I think that's it. And then just agree to have like where, you know, you have that time that you can just spend as a family or as a couple, and the work is separate, and kind of keep that separated as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
I do get pulled in line a few times when I start talking work outside of that time, and get told to cut it until the next day, basically.
Yeah. That lives in this meeting, not here. Beautiful. So before we wrap up though, because as you heard, my mission is to be the world's largest enabler of humans that are happy at work. And I hear firsthand that you've got some very happy humans in your team. So can you just talk through, like, what's your advice to other business owners on like how you build a great team? You can't open stores, you can't run stores, and you can't scale your business without the people. And you guys know, you mentioned the very beginning, Brett, like you've got to have the right people in the stores to get the sales. Yeah. What are your tips around building team, building culture, hiring, firing, all the things?
Yeah, people are obviously happy if they're working with products they like. And we've got some awesome products, which definitely helps with the happiness, because people love getting out on a skateboard and going for a ride or a scooter. They're adrenaline sports, and they are items that make people feel happy. So it does definitely help to have products that people love. And, all our staff, we give them an awesome buy price. So most of our staff own most of the things that we sell. Which definitely helps.
There's
100%.
Definitely we have passion in the team for the product, for sure. Like, I have to agree with that one. So I think when people come into us, like that is what attracts them to coming into Skate Connection. And then I guess they come in and thinking like, oh, this is really like a really fun industry to be part of. And then you get to see some of the things that happen behind the scenes. We do have that a skate team as well. So they get to like sort of like see how we do like handle that little up and coming mini Olympians, or, like just really excited, passionate people. And I guess, it's kind of what you've been saying, is just putting people into their strengths. And if they have that motivation and they see the direction of the company and they want to be part of it, sometimes, and we always look for these extra skills or things that they can bring to it. And a lot of the times we put them in positions that we don't even know exist yet. They're bringing in their own personal experience. They're bringing in ideas. And I love when you can just like bounce off of that as well. And I think that's what helps to keep them engaged and interested. And like I said, they're in positions that, the people have been with us for a long time, and they're in positions that we didn't even know existed when we first started. So I can't say like, oh, this person is going to be for this, because I don't know it's there yet. So an example of that would be like a social media manager, like that's not something we had 8 years ago. Another one would be managing a skate team. That's not something we had 8 years ago. And now we've got like sponsored skateboard riders and scooter riders and that sort of thing.
Wow.
So we now have someone who's like a skate coach, which is something that we didn't know. So I can't, it's hard to, when you have someone good, you'll find a job for them. You'll find the opportunity, and they help to grow your business to be rounded, where you're not just a retail, you're able to be like a bigger part of the community by doing events. And that was actually another big thing. Prior to COVID, we were just starting our events and things like that, and that's something we hopefully can pick up. But it creates like that really good connection with that community that we're saying, is if we can really tap in. And this is what people really want too. Like, you really have to listen to what your customer is saying and try to bring the essence of what you're about to them as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I think there's a really big piece there about listening and know, again, it's knowing your avatar, knowing how to connect with them. That's not just the ordinary. Like, you're like, oh, we're a skate shop, we have a retail store. Oh, wait, we can do events. Like, really following the thread of that connection piece to build your tribe beyond just buying product, right? And really looking at that. The other thing is with the team, the amount of businesses that I've seen absolutely flourish because they've given their team members a bit of creative license. Like, even a big example, if you look at Google, they allow their team members 20% of their work week to work on a passion project of theirs. And Gmail was the result of somebody's passion project.
Yeah.
Right? Just because they wanted to, like, seriously? So, like, we don't know what we don't know. And if we can just nurture people and help them to expand on their strengths, and if they truly have the love for the brand, and that the effort that they'll put in and the things that could come out, like, is exponential. And I see many businesses stunted in their growth because of the ego or the closed-mindedness of the business owners who want everyone to do it their way and everyone to sit in this job description, and I just want you to do that, like, just shut up and do your job, or like, you know, you want to slap the shit out of those people. But
Yeah.
but some people don't know what they don't know, or they get scared to do that as well, or they think that, you know, every hour that they pay them because they hired them in a customer service role, well, I need to use them in customer service for every hour that I'm paying them, rather than going, hey, well, what else could they bring? How else could we elaborate? What even just them asking questions sends us on a different thought path. So looking at what you can do to harness the brain power and the ideas and the creativity of your team is something that I think is severely underutilized in a lot of small to medium businesses. Because bigger businesses obviously do it well. They do their own think tanks. They know how to do this stuff, but it's something in your mom and pop stores or your small to medium that I think is really undervalued and underutilized because they don't know how to do it either. They don't really know how to give the permission without losing the control, or to put the parameters on it and how to capture that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That's
great.
Awesome. So tell me, what is one thing that you would love to leave our listeners with? Is there anything else that you want to tell Belle? And I love that you picked Belle because Shell's bells. And I was like, is that an accident? No.
It was meant to be. I guess just a couple things. So, you know, just remember how to choose your niche by asking the questions about the customer. Just aim to begin rather than aim to be perfect. And then you can work on it after that. Just understand how to, like, change direction or pivot or be adaptable and flexible when it's needed. That would be my biggest.
Yeah. No, that's all good. Yeah. I think that was well put.
Yeah. She nailed it. That's the mic drop moment.
Nailed it. Definitely.
I guess that's, you can still elaborate on each of those, but I guess, you know, I think that's been the biggest things that we've learned, you know, in the meantime. And it's just always like, like the initial, like, find your niche, and you need to really, you know, discover like who your customer is, and just go out there and just do a little bit of research, like ask them specifically, like, you know, what can be some of their problems, what, you know, what are their interests and things like that, and just understand, like, how that part works, but also see what your competition is doing, and just see how you can differentiate, just to make yourself a little bit different into that market, or provide a solution to any problem.
Do you think the pop-up stores really helped you with understanding that? Because I loved when you said you did the pop-up stores, I was like, oh my God, great market research, just great way to test the location, get the instant feedback, what's working, what do they want, kind of see what else is happening around you. Was that a deliberate part of the strategy for getting to know the avatar, or was it just to try and get to, where does that sit?
Yeah, that was, we looked at the pop-up shops as a marketing tool, just to spread awareness of our brand, because a brand new brand, unless you're spending thousands of thousands or millions of dollars on marketing, not many people know where you're at. So our aim there was to go into a shopping center, and if you can cover the costs of running that shopping center through your sales, then obviously it's mass marketing to that local area. So, and then it's letting them know about the permanent shop. So at the time when we did our first one, we had the shop open at Ashmore, and we did a pop-up almost instantly at Robina. But every customer that walked past our kiosk at Robina that we talked to them about the main shop with the range at Ashmore. So you'd get them into that shop basically. So yeah, the whole aim of that was just to create that customer base basically.
Yeah, I love that. So the mindset wasn't go in there and use it to make a huge profit and make sales. It was brand awareness so that you could drive the traffic and get the name out there.
Yeah, because the main thing is with any business, you need a good customer base. So the quicker you can build that customer base, the more successful you're going to be basically. And it is retaining your customer. And that's where you're saying, like, we've got a massive age range. If we've got customers from the time they're 2 years old through to their 80s, they're with us for a long, long period of time. And there's not a lot of businesses that could say that they retain a customer for that sort of length of period, basically.
Yeah, 100%. You can really map that through and have them come on that journey with you, that brand. If you like, even for me, I think it must have been 5 years now that I got my first skateboard that came from Ashmore. And then it's kind of like, that's just where I go. Like, I buy my helmet. I bought my nephew's when he was, I think, 1.5. And I'm just in the process of getting Isaac's help to figure out what deck to buy him for his turning 4 and getting him lessons and doing it. And that will continue to scale throughout his lifetime, and he will start to know the brand. And I think it's a amazing opportunity to be able to have a suite of products that carries the whole family through, but also carries them from such a young age as well.
Yeah. And I think that's probably it.
Awesome. I am so grateful that I got to have you guys on today. And what I'm most grateful for is Belle gets to hear this all the way over in Canada, and she can sit down, and there's so many tangible tips in there to go. So Belle, one of the key things is you really need to know your avatar, right? Get to know your customer, really find your niche, like drill into it, stay in your lane. But then once you're in your lane, look at, what are the fringe, what's the sides that you can keep stacking? As long as you're, on that main highway, build it out from there. Think about what you need to do to be agile. Where can you look for the lessons in the challenges? Because if you can put that right lens on something and go, right, there is a lesson, there's a blessing in here. If I can look for it, I can find it, then I can pivot, and then I can adjust. And that's just going to future-proof the business and make sure that you play to the strengths of your people.
Yep.
Awesome.
Great.
Any last moments, guys?
No, I think we're just happy to have this conversation with you. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks very much for the invite.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. As always, if you feel like there is any tangible advice or tips that either yourself could use or someone could use, make sure you tag them and share it so that they can jump on board and learn from the wisdom of some expert business owners and just some fun shit, right? So make sure you get it out and share it. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Barrels and Business podcast. If you are ready to build your kick-ass team, you're looking to scale your business, or you just want ways that you can get wet more often, make sure you head on over and connect with us at barrelsandbusiness.com. Actually, while you're at it, why don't you just hit subscribe wherever you are watching and listening to the podcast right now. I'll see you guys on the next episode.